Peace. My name is G-Man Allah. My artist name is P-Funk City G. And I'd like to welcome you to The Naked Truth. Today I have a great story to tell you, share with you. A lot of you familiar with it who read the Bible. It's the story of Joseph, Jacob's son. And it's also a story that's verified in the Quran under Yusuf. Yusuf is an Arabic word for name for Joseph, and Yaqub. It's a Hebrew and Arabic. It's a Semitic name for Jacob. To give you a little backstory, Joseph was the favorite son of Jacob. Jacob had 12 sons. Joseph was one of the younger ones. Joseph was a dreamer. Joseph went through a lot. And this is a story of being grateful for your lot in life. So, Joseph's brothers were jealous of him because he was Yaqub, or Jacob's favorite son. As I said, Joseph was a dreamer. He had dreams throughout his life. He was able to interpret dreams. One dream he had, he told his brothers, and it's described in the Bible in a creative way. But simply put, Joseph had a dream that his brothers bowed down to him. Later on, and that grew tension. Brothers obviously did not like that. Later on, he had another dream. He told his brothers that again he had a dream that the sun, moon, and stars would bow to him. Represent the Father represents the sun, right? The earth. It was the sun, earth, and stars. The earth represents the woman, and the stars represent the children. So what happened was, he told his father that that the sun, moon, earth, and stars were going to bow to him. Meaning his father, mother, and his brothers were going to bow to them. They didn't like that at all. So he told his father that dream too. And his father said, was a little put back. And he was like, your mother and I are going to bow down to you? That's crazy. But he kept it in the back of his mind. So out of envy, one day, his father wasn't envious, his brothers were envious. One day, his father, who was a shepherd, had his sons shepherding the flocks. They had goats, sheep, that type of thing, and they would take them far away. They lived in Canaan, and they would go to lands close to, in proximity of Canaan. They were shepherding. Jacob told his son Joseph, go catch up with your brothers, make sure that they are right, check on them. So Joseph did what his father said. Long story short, he found his brothers some distance away, caught up with them, and before he could reach them, they saw him in the distance, and they said, yo, we ought to kill that nigga, basically. And so they had plotted. His oldest brother Reuben heard the plot and was like, nah, you can't kill him, but let's throw him in the pit and then sell him. So that's what they did. Joseph approached, and let me back up a little. He always wore this white robe that he made. It was a regal robe with long sleeves, gold trimming. So what they did was they threw him in the pit. They took off the robe, and their plan was to slaughter an animal, dip the blood in dip the robe in the blood, and take it back to his father to explain why Joseph didn't come back with them. So they sat down, had a feast, and what happened was some Ishmaelites, right? They were driving by on camels on their way to Egypt to do trade. The brothers, Yusuf's brothers, saw them, stopped them, and said, "Listen, we got a slave for you we were selling." They sold their brother out, took him out the pit, sold him to the Ishmaelites for 20 pieces of silver. The Ishmaelites went on into Egypt. The brothers went their way. And when they got home, they had to tell their father this story. Jacob got killed by a wild beast. We found his belongings. He must have been, devoured. His father was very upset. They're Hebrew. And according to Hebrew tradition, when they're mourning, they rip their clothes. So Jacob tore his clothes in pain. He mourned for a long, long time. This is all in Genesis, right? Because the story of Jacob, I believe, begins around Genesis 30. This story starts in Genesis chapter 37. It runs to about chapter 45. So what happened was, meanwhile, while his father was mourning, the Ishmaelites took Joseph to Egypt. And then he sold him to one of the Pharaoh's chief officers. I think the second in charge of the whole nation. So what happened was, he was a hard worker. He was described as a handsome man, and so he drew favor from the his master. So what happened was, his wife noticed him, and she wanted him, and she told him, "Sleep with me," and he denied her. And she did it again sometime later. "Sleep with me." He denied her. She grabbed his garment as he ran away, so the back of his garment. Then she told her husband, starts with a P. I think the husband's name was plight, something with a P. And I wanted to do this off the brain, because if I sit here and broke down the scriptures, scripture by scripture, it would have been a long video. And this is just a short story to tell you about being grateful for what we have. So what happened is, Joseph ran away. She pulled his garment. He still had his garment in his hand. She told her husband that he tried to sleep with her. So what happened is, he was very, understandably, very upset. He had the power to throw Joseph into prison. He imprisoned him. Joseph was in prison for a number of years. So while he was in prison, there was two cats that were doing time with him. One of them was the Pharaoh's cupbearer. He's the one that poured wine and drinks into the Pharaoh's cup. Then the other one was a baker. He was a chief baker. So they both had dreams, and so Joseph was like, "Yo," they were troubled by the dream. Joseph was like, "Yo, tell me about your dream. Let me see what I could do." The first guy told him about his dream. He said, "Yo, this fancy, parable about, story about, he had a dream that, grapes were going to be coming from a vine and all this, that, and so, and put it in the cup." Joseph interpreted that dream and say, "Yo, man, you about to go home, man. Don't worry about it, man. You'll be pouring the Pharaoh's, filling the Pharaoh's cup soon." So the chief baker heard the interpretation of the dream and was like, "Yo, interpret my dream." So so the the baker told his dream about something about birds, pecking on top of his head, and this and that. And Joseph was like, yo, that that means that you're gonna be hung. They're gonna do away with you. You're gonna be gone. So what happened is within 2 days, a few days, these things happened. The cupbearer was freed and back in service with the Pharaoh, and the other one was hanged. So sometime later, the Pharaoh had a dream that troubled him. One dream was about a fat cow coming out of the river, and the Nile River, and other things related to it. And he was eating, and then he went back to sleep. He had another dream. He had a dream about a skinny, ugly cat that came out of the Nile River. He needed this to be interpreted. He sent for all, when he woke up, he sent for all his magicians, all of his, wise men to interpret the dream. They couldn't break the dream down. So what happened is the cupbearer, who was locked up with Joseph, told him, yo, when I was locked up, there was a guy who interpreted, a dream for me. So Pharaoh was like, oh, okay. He sent for Joseph in prison. Joseph, they had to clean him up because he was, he did time. Probably had his beard traggy. So they cleaned him up to make him presentable to come in front of the Pharaoh. The Pharaoh told him his dreams. Fat cow coming out the Nile. Second dream, ugly, skinny kid. So Joseph interpreted as there's going to be feast for 7 years, then there's going to be famine for 7 years to follow. And so what I recommend you to do is during the feast years, put up wheat and food to store for the famine. That's exactly what the Pharaoh did. The Pharaoh was so grateful, he made Joseph his number 2 in charge. There was nobody under Joseph except for the Pharaoh. So what happened was, the whole area, according to the story in the Bible, the whole earth was, was famished. But we know that it was just that area was famished. And so Canaan was part of that area where he grew up, and his father Jacob and his brothers lived. They, as a result, were, needed food. They needed, wheat and the things that grew out the ground. So Jacob sent his sons to go to Egypt and get some, because he had heard that there was grain and food to be had in Egypt. So they go to Egypt. And guess who's in charge of the food? Joseph. So when they stepped in the room, Joseph to barter and ask for what they wanted and all of this, they had to go in front of Joseph. Joseph recognized them, but they didn't recognize Joseph. So they bowed down to Joseph. And Joseph was like, yo. He was dealing harsh with them because he knew who they were. And, they left him for dead. You know what I'm saying? So he gave him a hard time. So he was like, he set him up. So he said, yo, I give you what you want. He gave them what they want. And so they paid him. So what happened was he had the bags filled up, and then he had his people put the money back in their bags. So when they got back to Jacob, they was like, Jacob was like, yo, why y'all still got the money? He said, I don't know. What happened? Must have been some type of misunderstanding. So in some time, they needed to go back and re-up. So Jacob sent his sons back to Egypt. Jacob told his sons, he was like, yo, take this money that he gave you, get that back to him, tell him there was a misunderstanding, apologize, and then this is the money for the new stuff. They did that. So now Jacob, they go in front of Joseph. Joseph was like, they apologized for taking the money, this and that. Joseph gave a hard time. Yo, y'all trying to steal from me? Like, yo, what's going on? They're like, no, we weren't trying to steal from you. He said, who are you guys? He said, yo, we just, humble, shepherds, and we work for our father. He has 12 sons. One of our sons is no longer around. One of our brothers is no longer around. He died. We good people, and my father's a good man. He's like, nah, y'all spies. He's like, no. So he told him about his brother Benjamin, the youngest, who didn't come with them. He said, I tell you what, I want 3 of you guys to stay here and the rest of y'all to go back, and y'all get your brother Benjamin and you bring him here. Otherwise, these guys are not going to be set free. So after the morning, when they went, after the morning, he let them go back. But he had one stay there in prison. And the other ones went back. He went to tell Jacob. Jacob was like, yo, what's going on? He said, yo, the only way, we got to bring Benjamin. So they go back, tell Benjamin, to get Benjamin, and his father's like, nah, man. Yeah, I lost one son messing with you guys. I'm not doing this again. Reuben was like, yo, Dad, trust me. We gonna make sure that Benjamin come back. Matter of fact, if something happened, I'll slaughter my own children. After a while, convincing, Jacob was like, all right, we need the food. Yo, y'all go ahead, but yo, man, watch my son. Watch out for Benjamin. They go to Egypt. Egypt sees Benjamin. He couldn't control himself. He had to leave the room, start crying. He cried a little bit, came back and pulled himself back together. And was like, came and dealt business. So he was like, he did the same transaction. They paid for the stuff. He put the stuff that they put in sacks. They loaded up the camels and donkeys. He carried the stuff, and he put like a royal gold goblet in Benjamin's sack. They took off. He had his workers run down on him. It's like, yo, the goblet is missing. Yo, we got to search y'all. He searches them in Benjamin's sack to find the goblet. So they set him, locked him up, brought him back to the place to, to deal with the king. And then they had to go back. They told their father, if I'm not mistaken, he told them that he would have to. No, I was gonna say he had to bring his father, but they didn't have to bring his father. They go back. They tell their father. His father upset, of course. So he sends them back with something. I forget what happened, but he sent them back to get Benjamin. So Joseph came to them and eventually, told them what was happening. That, yo, I'm your brother Joseph, da-da-da, boom, boom. They hugged him and they, wept and asked for forgiveness for doing what they did. He said, listen to me. He said, yo, I forgive y'all, because if y'all hadn't did what y'all did, I wouldn't be who I am. The number one man in Egypt, and here being able to bless you guys. That's the story. So he told his brothers, yo, go get daddy, the family, bring everybody back. Joseph told the Pharaoh. Pharaoh had a super beautiful, best part of the land in Egypt, set it for them. Yo, y'all set yourself up in Goshen. Everything gonna be fine. They did that. And they went to got the father. The father came, fell to his son's feet. His mother fell to his son's feet and were grateful. So they all ended up bowing down to him as he saw in his dream. So the moral of the story is keep dreaming. Keep dreaming. Elijah Muhammad said we don't get anything from our dreams, so I don't really, get in. But, it's a Bible story. And so we can take things from stories. And one thing, too, is that I noticed, me being in Jamaica, and going through Melissa and the tribulations. Jamaica's a hard life, But, in Islam, we pray for the strength to make it through a hard life. And, me and my son making it through, we are a lot stronger. In fact, I read, as I said before, I've read the Torah since we had no lights here in Jamaica. And I wouldn't have, I've read Genesis before, but I had never had that story stand out to me like it did at this time. And I just wanted to share that with you. It might seem that, things are crazy, but sometimes we're set up and put in crazy and harsh situations to set us up for a blessing later. All right. So we're going to leave it here. I think somebody calling me, so let me attend to that. But as always, love, peace, and happiness. And also shout out to Chelsea Gray, who won the unrivaled one-on-one. She won $200,000. She beat Aliyah Gray. They had 3 games. They were exhausted. It was an amazing feat to watch. The NBA needs to do something like that. I don't even watch the NBA because it's so, so I don't know, it's just watered down. But I love the unrivaled series. They play hard basketball. I'm a 3-on-3 man. That's my game, is 3, 3-on-3. That's my game. I love it. It's a pyramid. I like to go in the post. I can see the whole floor. I can set somebody up for a 3, take it, fadeaway jumper, or fake it to a pass. So I just love the game, the spacing. But anyway, love, peace, and happiness. And congratulations to Chelsea Gray.
P Funk City G.